Welcome to this episode of Contrails and Cocktails. I'm Paula Williams with ABCI. It is the Christmas season as we are recording this, so of course you can expect a Christmas cocktail. Our guest is John Davies. John Grumpy Davies has been many things: aircraft mechanic, business consultant, aircraft appraiser, girls soccer coach, and even CPR certification trainer. He's based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What do all of these things have in common? Grumpy loves helping people, and he is very good at it, despite the name. And of course, if you've been listening for any length of time, you already know Mark Parry of Global Aircraft Group. Mark is an appraiser, insurance adjuster, and expert witness based in New England. So if you have any type of aircraft appraisal work that needs to be done, these two gents are the people to call. And we're looking very much forward to this conversation and this cocktail. So we'll go ahead and dive in. Welcome to this episode of Contrails and Cocktails. I'm Paula Williams with ABCI.
I'm Mark Parry with Global Aircraft Group, certified aircraft appraisals, free desktop appraisals, and aircraft adjusting.
And I'm John Davies, alias Grumpy. I have a company named Jam Aircraft Appraisals. We're still trying to get it off the ground with the help of Paula and Mark and a few other people. So we're heading in the right direction. At least I think so.
Fantastic. Great. And this episode is being recorded just before Christmas. So we have a Christmas theme going on with some of the decor and also the cocktail. So we're looking forward to that. But so just to get started, Grumpy, maybe you can tell us how you came up with that. I know everybody has a call sign in the aviation industry. It's kind of a thing. And you never pick your own call sign. It's like a...
No.
It's bad luck if you do, or there's some superstitions about that. So maybe you can tell us how you got the name.
Well, I got the name Grumpy not from anything in aviation, believe it or not. My older granddaughter played ice hockey, and I used to be involved with, the traveling team. So we're up all the way up to New York, down to North Carolina. And when you have 11, 12-year-old girls, I'm surprised they have any hair left. But so somehow I must have said something to one of them because they were being a pain in the butt. And from there, I got Grumpy, and it just stuck. And I've still got people that call me Grumpy. Even I don't coach anymore. And I walk through the ice rink, and someone will call me out. And some of them, her friends or new friends, are like, "Can I call him that?" "Yeah, you can call him that. He answers to it. It's no big deal. He doesn't get upset." So I got it from there, and then it just steamrolled.
Hey, Grumpy, every time you go to the ice rink. That's cool. No, I think that's amazing and really cool. I think you have to be grumpy in order to be a sports coach of any young people. It's just like a requirement, right?
Well, especially 11 and 12-year-old females. It is ugly. I mean, they behaved, but somehow I ended up always setting up the meals where they were going to eat, and sometimes it worked out. And where I really got it, I think, was I'm not sure if we were in Connecticut or we were in New York, somewhere. Anyways, we found the ice rink. They had a restaurant next to it. It was a nightmare. It's like they had one cook, one waitress, and we walk in with 50 people. So I was giving my burger to some of the girls so they could go get on the ice because the food wasn't coming out fast enough. Yeah, it was just, that's how I got. That's when I remember it happening. So
yeah. Oh, I remember. My son was in Taekwondo, competitive Taekwondo, and doing the Junior Olympics and all this other fun stuff. And the tournaments, they're supposed to start at 10 a.m. or whatever and stuff, and then go until 5 in the afternoon or whatever. I don't think we ever finished one before like 10 or 11 p.m. They were
Yep.
always late with things, and kids weren't ready and refs weren't ready and things were scheduled wrong or whatever. So I totally get that. And yeah, being grumpy I'm sure I was grumpy as well, being a taekwondo mom. But Mark, have you been grumpy with your kids, or have you
Oh, heck.
had to do this sporting coaching thing?
No, I never did coaching. I did Cub Scouts. I was a
Yeah.
co-den leader with
Mm.
my neighbor years ago.
Mm.
But my kids did all sports and baseball and soccer.
Ah, fun.
Yeah.
That's cool. Being a den leader is also a huge nightmare. I think we ended up doing Klondike camp. Of course, we're out here in Utah, and so we have lots of snow. We do Klondike camp every year, and we would end up going to Walmart and spending $100 every time we did Klondike camp, just so the kids wouldn't freeze to death, because there'd be kids that show up without enough socks, and without a stocking cap, and without this and without that, and
Yeah.
just insane. So
Those travel wigs are a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was, I once drove from Orlando up to Philly, picked up my granddaughter and her friend, drove back to Raleigh, Durham, get to Raleigh, Durham, and they wouldn't let you go in the arena. So we bought TV, set it up outside because they have this thing called, oh my gosh, I don't know, but they have they have cameras in some of these things, and you pay a price to join Live Barn. That's what it's called. So we all sat outside and luckily it wasn't raining, it wasn't that cold, and watched the game. We could send one person in, but it was during COVID. And then I drove back from Raleigh, Durham to Philadelphia and turned around and drove back to Orlando.
Oh, wow.
14 hours from Orlando to, well, it's supposed to be more, but tend to drive fast. Plus, I always leave late at night, so there's only thing I have to deal with is trucks. So
Mm-hmm.
I've learned my lesson on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make anybody grumpy.
Sometimes it's
Calling you Grampy and it turned into Grumpy.
Yeah.
no, I never called that. I was called Pop Up, but never grumpy. But so,
Giving away our age.
There you go.
yeah, that's okay. I'm good with it. Nothing I can do about it. But I just keep thinking every once in a while. I keep seeing all these people dying in the newspaper. They're like 59. And I'm like, oh, that's not
No,
so.
it's
But
not the age, it's the mileage.
not the age, it's the what?
Mileage.
Mileage.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, I'm really screwed.
Well,
It's not the snow on the roof, it's the fire in the hearth.
there you go. See?
Well, I got fire there. There's no doubt about that, and I definitely got snow on the roof. So, but
Absolutely.
I think I told you. I don't think Mark, I told you about the guy that called me about an appraisal, and I think he was in either Washington State or Dallas, Texas, somewhere in Texas. I don't remember. But he calls me up, and I answer the phone, and I said, "Hello, how are you?" He says, I have a couple questions. I don't need my aircraft appraised." I said, "Okay." So I'm thinking, why is this
Why
guy
are we
calling?
talking? Right.
So then he says, "Well, I want to do like $50,000 worth of upgrades in avionics on my plane." I said, "Are you going to sell the plane, or are you going to keep the plane?" "Well, no, I want to keep it." So this went on for like 20 minutes, telling me what's going on and how he's going to do it. And I said, "Well, I said, there's benefits from upgrading, obviously, better, logistics, better communication, everything's up, newest, blah, blah, blah." So finally he got to the real reason. And the real reason was, well, I needed some ideas and some benefits of doing this $50,000 upgrade so I could get my wife convinced to do this.
So you're doing marriage
and he hung
counseling.
up. That was it. He wanted to know how he could tell his wife that this $50,000 is worth it.
There
I
you
said, all right,
go.
well, if you know anybody needs appraisal, please have them call me. Oh yeah, no problem. But
Hmm. Well,
he just wanted ways to convince his wife to spend the money.
reason
I'm like,
number
okay.
4,556 to get an aircraft appraised is to convince your spouse that it's worth
Yeah,
it.
well, I think that was part of his plan.
Yeah.
That would have been a nice desktop.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he didn't want an appraisal, and so I kind of went, eh. But then he started telling me why, and then when he did tell me the total reason, I laughed.
Hmm.
And we hung up, and it was all good. So it was okay.
Okay.
That's not gonna. I mean, that's not gonna happen very often. But hey, it was.
No.
You never know who's gonna talk to who, and he said, "Hey, call this guy." So I was all good.
Yeah. That's probably an interesting thing. We should ask people, what is the most interesting reason you've heard of that somebody needed an aircraft appraised? I'm sure there's some weird ones out there.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Hmm. How funny.
I've had a few here and there, but mostly they're not really funny. They're just a lot of legal divorce type stuff or lost logbooks.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you had
A
Larry
lot of
on the um, podcast a while back, who was talking about all of the tragic things that happened to people's logbooks. And he related that story of the airplane that destroyed its own logbooks by running into the hangar wall and setting off the sprinklers. The
How
poor
did the airplane go into the hangar wall?
jumped the chocks. They were doing an engine run up, and it jumped the chocks, jostled the wall just enough. Not really any damage to the aircraft, maybe a couple $100 damage to the aircraft. But the hangar's sprinkler system went off and destroyed
Okay,
logbooks
got it.
that were on the other side of this wall on a table, all laid out because they were doing an inspection. That's why they were doing the engine run up. So
Now they're all wet.
got it all wet. And then the aircraft lost a third of its value because they had to recreate the logbooks. And, they were just completely destroyed. I guess the kind of paper that they were on or whatever, it just became illegible and unusable. So that's totally sucks. Good reason to get digitals, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'll share one more thing. It had nothing to do with appraisals, but it has to do with aviation. So I
Mhm.
worked for US Air in Philadelphia. We merged with Piedmont at one point with NPSA, all within a couple months, and they were still separated. Their flight crews were flying Piedmont airplanes, US Air crews were flying US Air aircraft. They hadn't got all the contracts worked out. So as a mechanic, we used to park the airplane, chalk it, do a walk around, go up, see if there's anything wrong, boom, boom, boom. So I'm done all that. I'm back in, sitting down, relaxing, and I get a phone call that says, "Hey, you need to go out to the aircraft. There's a problem." Okay. So I go out. It's a 737-200, if you know what that is.
Mhm.
Um, it's the early version of the 737. So I go up there, and the pilot almost ran me over getting off the airplane. So that's my first suspect. The first officer, I wouldn't let him off till he said, "Well, you have to see the flight attendant." Okay. So he gets off and he's up, he's gone. So I know something's up, but I just don't know what it is. So I've got three Southern Belle blonde flight attendants, right from the South with the twang and all the good stuff. So I go up on the airplane, I go back there and I say, what's wrong? And the first flight attendant I get to says, "I saved the airplane." I said, "Oh,
Good
you
for you.
saved the airplane." I said, "How did you do that?" Well, I sat on this door handle all the way from Greensboro to here. They have a sorry, they have a door to service the galley. Regular door. That's a plug door, so when you close the door, it can't be opened if you pressurize. But they used to get the outside door handle. The caterers would forget to push it in, and it could come out. It just spin. You couldn't do it unless you engaged it to open it up. So she tells me this story that I saved the aircraft so the door couldn't come open. And then the other two came up, and the one says, "Yeah, I had her give me all her jewelry, so if she did get sucked out, I'd be able to have something to give her parents." And now I'm looking, I'm thinking, "Is this candid camera? Someone's screwing with me."
Yeah, yeah,
So no, we went on. They went on their whole spiel how they did this, and this lady sat on this handle, which is not where she's not really that tall, so she had to get up on her tippy toes to sit on this handle, which I still can't grasp that she'd done this. But she
yeah.
thought she had saved the aircraft. So I said, "Well, first off, if the door can't come open if you're pressurized. Number two, if it did come open, you holding her jewelry, unless you're strapped in, you're going out the door too. But who told you to sit on the handle?" And then I figured it out. The captain. Well, that's why he ran off. The first officer knew about it too, so he's gone. So I said, "Listen, I don't care what they told you, but that door can't come open." Now they're like, it's finally sinking in that three blondes figured out how to save the airplane, and they think they did when they really didn't do anything except sit on the door head. And I can't imagine the guy sitting in first class looking at her and going, "What the hell is she doing?" But
Wow.
they got off. So I said, "Do you guys, are you flying with that crew?" "Yeah." I said, "You need to get even because you guys were never in danger. They thought
Hmm.
they'd saved the airplane." So I, it's, I just laughed. You can't even begin to imagine that they would think that, but they thought they'd saved the world, boy.
Oh
And
man, that's hysterical. So they were being had.
oh, they were had, all right.
Yeah. Oh
Luckily, it was
man.
only an hour flight, so she didn't sit on it too long. But
Hmm.
it was, I was
We had
like,
a,
Yeah. That's a great story.
we had a Challenger aircraft where it's not a plug door; it's a big old drop in, and you pull a lever and belt cranks. So it's just a brutal door to work on. Anyway, that the pilot had the door dropped in. He pulled the handle, but it didn't engage the latches.
Hmm.
So he took off, and they had a door light. We sent the co-pilot back to check it, and the guy messed around with the door, and the door opened in flight.
Ah.
oh,
He went out with it because they weren't at altitude; they were at takeoff, and so he took a ride on the outside of the airplane, hanging out of that door, and
Oh
survived.
wow.
he's damn lucky.
That sounds
Yeah, he
very
was.
Mission Impossible, you know?
But yeah, well, since you brought that one up, I worked for the original Eastern back in 1980, and I lived in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, so I would fly from Miami to Atlanta to, it would stop in Allentown, then go to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So I got on the airplane going back, and we landed in Allentown. Everybody loads up, and they close the door, but it doesn't look right. But I'm not paying attention, and we take off. And there's so much noise and racket. I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" So I look, and you can see outside the door. It's didn't close and locking the lights out, but you can see outside. So he
Wow.
made emergency landing, comes back around. Somehow they managed to get the door locked, closed and locked, but it took a guy with a bar on the outside and me on the inside to pop this door back loose. And I said, "Get away, let me close the door." They didn't push the top off, so it was wore out, is what it needed. So we got it on, closed the door, and we all left. And it was just like, how do you get that door closed?
Oh,
I don't know how they did it. And it was a little girl that closed the door, so I don't know how she managed to get that because it was tight.
talent and leverage.
Yeah, well, that's what took leverage to get it open because like we couldn't get the dang thing open. It was crazy.
Wow.
The
That's cool.
Challenger door. You're not supposed to open it unless the pilot gives you a thumbs up. The air pressure's completely bled off because if you got even like a quarter pound of pressurization,
Throwing you out.
no, the maintenance guys come up to tow the aircraft or whatever, or open the door for, customer service. If you get that door open, like a quarter pound pressure, that thing, it's 250-pound door, kill you,
Yeah.
flatten you like a pancake.
Wow.
But it's pretty hard. It was always a warning, but I don't know if you could actually get that thing. You'd have to really, have a lot of
Well,
strength.
if it's possible, somebody will figure it out.
Yeah. But
People are ingenious.
brings the question to mind: who can do a better certified appraisal? A guy with a lot of maintenance background, like John and I, or a pilot?
There's a good question.
Same amount of years he's been a pilot, but
I
not
would
really.
say the maintenance guy is who I'd go with.
Yeah, I mean the training is the same. So and the analytics and all that, but I think that guys like John and I, we have a little more diversity of background where we can do not just appraisal, but we can tap into other levels of experience. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Plenty
Well,
of
I mean,
pilot appraisers too,
right, that's true. And pilots have a point of view, where they're assessing it from the usability standpoint. How usable is this for the business that it's working in, but they don't have the guts of the airplane. I mean, they don't they would know the avionics, they would know the parts that they interface with only, really. And you guys know the whole airplane inside and out. So,
Well, that
that's
was always the thing. We know the aircraft plus what they know, and they don't know that we know. To me, the biggest problem was always the pilot that was also had an A&P. They all,
Mhm.
I shouldn't say anything, but they were more of a pain in the butt than they needed to be because they had the A&P, and they were sure to tell you, which is
Uh-huh.
fine. But for an appraisal purpose, I think it. I mean, I'm not saying a pilot is not the right way, but they don't see things every day that mechanics see. And
Mhm.
we see when we're a mechanic, you see stuff on an appraisal that the pilot may not recognize or even notice that needs to be addressed. And to me, that's why I think if you don't have any kind of maintenance background, I think it's harder to do a good appraisal as opposed to, yeah, I was a pilot for 30 years at United, which is great. So you set up and you punch the button and the aircraft took off. Because I used to fly in the cockpit for Spirit when I worked for them, and I hated it because first off, you couldn't take a nap, and number two, once they got up there, depending on whether the pilot was a good guy or a pain, they take off, they get it, hit the button, autopilot's taking it over, and then only time they take back is when they get ready to land. And they
Mm.
really don't need to do that either because the airplane can land itself. But it's
Mhm.
just it's just crazy that I mean it's actually very boring, and that's why I didn't like flying up there very often. It's just I did it to give up a seat so we could not bump somebody off the airplane.
Mhm. Well, so many pilots have side hustles, and I think that's probably why, because they have all of this brain power that is doing other things while they're flying, most of the time,
a lot of free
90% of the time. Mhm.
a lot of free
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Well, one guy, as soon as they hit that button, he turned sideways, disconnected, and he didn't stop talking the whole flight. I'm
Ah,
like, oh my
well,
God, please land. But then you get the
you're
other
killing me,
side.
man.
I mean, and they were very nice, but you get the other side. Is I had a guy, I asked permission because you got to ask permission, and they had a female first officer, and I apparently was in the way at one point. So she said something, so I just got out, sat on the jetway. When you guys are ready for me to come in, I'll come in. And so the captain didn't say a word, didn't say a word. We take off. He doesn't say one word, doesn't say hello, doesn't say how you doing, nothing. Not a word. All he did was talk to her through the headphones. She has to go to the bathroom, so they always send a flight attendant, which made no sense since I was already there, but and I'm an employee, but whatever. She comes in, I know her, she starts talking to me, then all of a sudden he wants to get involved in the conversation. I just look at him like, what are you doing?
Oh,
But
now I'm a
I
human
didn't say
being,
anything.
right?
So she leaves. First off, comes back, and not another word till we land. I just said thank you, and off I went. It's just you go one extreme to the other, but at least I'd rather have the guy talk to you. Of course, he told me about a good restaurant, a good bar, whatever. There's always good things come out of it too sometimes.
Oh, pilots know the best restaurants and the best bars. That's
And the cheapest ones because they're all cheap.
okay.
Best value. Let me say not cheap. They know the
There you
best
go.
value.
All right. Cool.
But you know what? We know how much the parts cost, and
Hmm.
we know how long it takes to do the job.
Hmm.
And so that I think is a huge value added, for doing a certified appraisal and coming up with a really accurate appraisal or value.
Absolutely. And you know what the cycles are for, things coming due for
Yeah.
replacement. And, you know all of the
Well, the pilots are up on that. But,
yeah. Yeah.
um, I had a chief of maintenance that I used to work for, and he used to call the pilots null and void.
Oh, well, speaking of nicknames.
Yeah. Speaking of not nice.
It's
Yeah,
funny
I
you say
know.
that.
The
I
industry is full of them and they're never flattering, right?
Oh no.
Mhm.
I also did some work for Legion as in tech pubs there, and the tech pubs always handled everything, pilots, flight attendants, whatever. And one day after talking to these pilots and getting them up to speed, I said to the chief pilot one day, I said, I have figured out how we get our airplanes back to Las Vegas. He goes, how? I said, you got two pilots, right? So you got to make sure one of them knows what the heck he's doing and the other has no idea. I said, so you got to make sure you got one of each. Otherwise, the airplane ain't coming back. You're probably not far off. But
Okay.
now now to be fair to the pilots, it's not my thing. And when there's crosswinds and things aren't going well, you want a guy who that's what he loves to do and knows how to do it. And that's who
oh
you
yeah,
want. You don't
Mhm.
want me up.
Yeah.
it's not
Somebody
all
that can
bad.
feel that crosswind and work with it. I mean, you guys feel
Here and there
engines and
money.
work with them. So that's
Here and there money. I won't begrudge him that.
yeah. No, that's great. Cool.
So we're gonna do our introduction advertisement slash.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that. Who you are, where you can be found, and who your ideal customer is. We'll do that one. Paula Williams, ABCI. We help aviation companies sell more of their products and services.
This is Mark Parry, Global Aircraft Group, based in New England. We love to do certified appraisals on all aircraft, jets, museums, IRS appraisals, and our favorite customers are financial institutions and legal, uh, legal, legal lawyers.
Those guys.
Those guys.
Yeah.
There's a $8.5 billion litigation going on with airliners. So I got a call on that, but we'll see.
Excellent. Oh, that's cool.
I'm John Davies / Grumpy. Um, all types of aircraft appraisals, helicopters, um, whatever you need appraised. I'll take care of it. But Mark and I are trying to get some stuff together, but we're going to continue to push forward. And if you need an appraisal, call us.
I think that's one of the coolest things about the aviation industry is that people work together, and everybody profits from it when they do because everybody's in a different geographical location. Everybody has different specialties. Everybody has a different background. And, even competitors often work together. There's no such thing. There's other marketing companies that we get and give business to because we just all want the best for the customer. So I think that's cool. All right, so tell us what you're drinking, Mark.
Yeah, we have the White Christmas. It's made with some Kahlua, equal parts Kahlua, Baileys, and vodka with some whipped cream and cinnamon on top.
So Kahlua meaning the coffee flavored?
Yeah, Kahlua.
Okay.
I may be saying it wrong. Kahlua.
Oh, that's okay.
Kahlua is more licorice flavor, but
for coffee, yeah, they make it in Mexico.
Gotcha. Yeah, the Kahlua, I think is
yep,
okay.
That's it.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was so white. I always thought it was kind of.
It's not.
It's not. Okay. It's kind of brown.
Yeah, and then if you want to make it a little bit, you could drop out the vodka and put in some milk.
Would that be a good one to do like at a Christmas party in a pitcher? Or is that basically you mix it by the drink only kind of a cocktail?
It's a pretty strong drink, so I don't know if I'd recommend pictures of it. And it looks nice. It really looks Christmassy if you put it in the right glass.
Yeah.
Cinnamon on top, and just
Yeah,
it's pretty easy to make one at a time on the rock. Put it on the rock. Yeah, shake it. Comes out cold. And I don't really like vodka, so I actually would probably use milk and
leave out the vodka. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan either.
Old Joyce.
Yeah.
Now they got all different kinds. Bacon vodka.
Oh man, there is marshmallow. I don't like vodka, but there is marshmallow flavored vodka that actually goes really, really well in hot chocolate. Or, that's actually pretty nice. And I know it's not the vodka, it's the flavoring that they put in it, but still it's really cool. Very s'mores. Yeah.
Well, I'm doing keto, and I don't think this is keto, so.
Okay. You're making an exception. This is a cheat day.
We're going to exception for our podcast.
There you go.